Bună seara, doamnelor, bună seara, domnilor, sunt Marius Constantinescu, iar dumneavoastră urmăriți o nouă ediție a emisiunii Vizual pe TVR3 și tvrplus.ro. Suntem la Cărturești, Verona. Astăzi am plăcerea să vă aduc un interviu în exclusivitate cu una dintre cele mai semnificative voci în ficțiunea americană contemporană, Susan Choi. Cel mai recent roman al acesteia, Exercițiu de încredere, este câștigător în 2019 al National Book Award for Fiction.
Now, your novel I was talking about, Trust Exercise, has won the National Book Award for Fiction, and it has also been picked by former President Barack Obama as one of his favorite books and made the New York Times top books list of 2019. How do you feel that this reception, all these accolades, changed the book life?
I think it's been amazing for the book because it has ended up, I think, bringing this book to readers who might not have encountered it otherwise. It's an unusual book. I think it's kind of a difficult book in ways. When I was first working on it, I didn't really imagine, I thought it was possible it would not publish. And so it's, been a wonderful surprise that it received this incredible reception, but I think it's really also brought this book to people who either would not have tried a book like this without that kind of, level of encouragement, and also people who hadn't read my work previously. So it's been really wonderful for me to get new readers.
It is a coming-of-age novel spotlighting a very delicate time in someone's life, the adolescence. Was your own adolescence significant enough to fuel part of your narrative?
No, I'm afraid it wasn't. I mean, I think my own adolescence was pretty ordinary. I think that any adolescence is actually, it feels extraordinary to whoever is going through it. I have an adolescent and teenage child now myself, and I think regardless of what your experience, it's a really extraordinary time, kind of, unmatched in the rest of our life. I mean, I think the time of going from being a baby to being a little child who acquires language, that's pretty major. And I think that maybe the other major period really is this adolescent period where you go from being a child to trying to understand how to be an adult. So I think for anyone, it's kind of not just this extraordinarily important period, but I have to say, like a little bit looked down upon culturally. I think at least in the US, I think we can sneer a little bit at like, adolescents or teenagers. And but I think the more I think about it, the more remarkable it seems. And watching my kids go through it, it's quite remarkable. So mine was both ordinary and extraordinary, the way anyone's is.
Well, talking about this particular time, there is something very alterable in the personality of a 15, 16-year-old human being. Do you think that adults have this irrepressible urge to take advantage of their vulnerability?
I don't actually, or at least, not as uniformly. I mean, I think that's one of the things that is extraordinary about this time. And I really like the phrase you just used.
Or maybe not in a programmatic way, yes, at least.
Yeah, but that phrase you just said, taking advantage of our vulnerability, I mean, that's a really remarkable way to put it. And though I've never thought of it in those words, I think that's exactly right. It's this this kind of drive to test limits that I think young people have, and that's often bemoaned, by parents or culture as like, oh, the risk taking, the lack of judgment. But I think that there is this this daring and this real drive to explore possibility and to be open to possibility, to actually acknowledge the full range of possibility in a way that I think as we become adults, we get worse and worse at that. We get more and more locked in, not just to conditions of our lives, but, conditions of our mentality, our psychology. And we think, I can't do that. And I think young people don't think that way, or at least, you know, in my observation, they're more likely to sort of think wildly, and there's real importance in that.
Well, I was going to also sustain my saying about being vulnerable, and in the same time being so open to someone else's influence, because you have created this rather infamous character, which is Mr. Kingsley, someone who plays with your teenagers' minds. What kind of reactions did he elicit within your readers?
I'm sorry to say the reaction of, oh, I had that teacher. It's overwhelming to me how many readers said that they had experienced a teacher like this, knew someone like this. The intense familiarity of this figure, I think, was both, you know, a real boon to the book, because a lot of people picked up the book and encountered that character and went, oh my God, yeah, I know this man. But also kind of disturbing to me. I thought, like, should we feel good about the universality of the manipulative, charismatic, predatory teacher character? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a great thing that we're all so familiar with this person. But I think it was very cathartic to a lot of readers to encounter that person in this book.
Susan Choi s-a născut în 1969 în Indiana. În 2003 a fost finalistă la premiul Pulitzer cu romanul American Woman, iar Exercițiul de încredere, carte tradusă în limba română de Mihaela Buruiană și publicată de Humanitas Fiction, a fost în 2019 cartea anului pentru Elle, Marie Claire, Cosmopolitan și Vanity Fair.
Well, our generations usually regarded adolescence as a joyful and usually a carefree period of time, yet far from the pressures of the adult life. How did things change in the last decades, according to you at least?
I mean, again, I like your phrase about adolescence supposedly being far from the pressures of adult life. I think that it feels less and less that way, at least the adolescents that I know, not just as a parent, but as a teacher, I don't think they feel very far from those pressures at all. I think that they feel unbearably close to them. And I think also there are pressures on them that were never present when I was their age. The pressure of the climate emergency is something that was certainly brewing when I was a young person, but I was oblivious, right? And I realized what a gift it was to have been young and oblivious to this danger that no young person today is able to be oblivious to. It's impossible. And this is like an existential crisis for all of us, but I think really for young people, they're feeling that with incredible intensity. And so, that's an entirely new difficulty. And then there's all of the old ones, of like, what will I do with my life and what kind of person am I going to be?
There is a rather extensive feature on you and your book, Trust Exercise, on Vulture magazine, where you have stated that at the time of the writing of the book, you were really, really mad. Now, what was the reason for you being so mad?
Well, I mean, a certain presidential campaign was making me very angry. And that was enough. I was working on this book on and off for a while. And then I had really put it aside. In the fall of 2016, as certain realities in this nation became unavoidably clear, I became increasingly, I laugh now, but these things have not gone away. It's just we've had a chance to become more accustomed to them. But I was walking around in a sort of a state of like white hot rage and did not know where to put it, and found myself working on this book again. And I think that was where I put a lot of those feelings.
Do you think that part of your anger infused the book as well?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. The middle section of the book was really written in this period. I hadn't had the plan to send the book in that new direction until this period of time. And I was quite surprised by the direction the book took. It was very cathartic for me. And also, I wasn't really giving a lot of thought to it at that time as a book. I was thinking,
surprising for you as well?
Oh yeah, completely surprising. I mean, for better and for worse, I don't tend to plan my projects at all. I'm not capable of it. I'm very painfully aware of this right now as I'm trying to, get a new book project off the ground. And I literally cannot get it organized. Like, I can't find the files on my hard drive. I cannot remember what the plot is supposed to be. Like, I'm a pretty intuitive, but also very disorganized writer. And so with this book, the material that had already existed for it, I kind of like just let it languish in a folder on my laptop. And when I went back and started writing this new material that was fueled by how mad I was at everything, initially I just thought, this is fun. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. It surprised me that it ended up not just being the direction that project took, but kind of completely shedding a fresh light on everything I had already written, and exposing themes and ideas to me that I hadn't really been aware I was exploring.
Now, talking about this element of surprise, you are so skilled in surprising the reader, in leading her or him on a certain path, just to abruptly then push her or him onto an unexpected direction. Is it instinct or exercise?
It's definitely more instinct than anything else, but I don't even know if it's instinct, because, as I said, I surprised myself with this book. And I think the thing that really benefited this book, at least as far as its element of surprise is concerned, is that I had very low expectations here for this project. I was really just kind of having fun with it. I had been working on something else that was not going well, in part because I had very heavy and high expectations for that. And unsurprisingly, I was unable to figure out what to do with that project because I was so conscious all the time of the reader. With this book, I wasn't conscious of the reader because I wasn't for a long time even convinced I was writing a book.
Your novel has been linked up to a certain extent to Ian McEwan's Atonement. How do you see this kind of comparisons and references that inevitably tend to appear?
It's very funny that should be the comparison, because I was very, very provoked by Atonement. I've never been able to forget it. At the time of reading it, I hurled it across the room at a certain key moment that, if you have read it, you probably can identify which moment that was.
Of course.
Yet at the same time, that book, I love McEwan's work in general, but that book is one of the ones that really, you can't dislodge it once you've read it from your mind. And it troubled me for a long time, because I had an editor at the time that I had read Atonement who said to me, I had just published 3 books at that time. Now Trust Exercise is number 5. So this was quite a while ago. And this editor said to me, kind of very offhandedly, "You'll have to write your Atonement one of these days." And I thought, well, that's a lot of pressure. How could anyone ever possibly do that? Like, how could anyone ever set out to write a book like that? And it bothered me for a long time. And then, thank God, I forgot completely about this idea. And so I guess if this book is comparable to Atonement, it would only be because I didn't try.
The book is also about manipulation, about pulling the strings. In this particular matter, have you imagined the book as a metaphor for a broader part of the society? Is manipulation one of today's biggest diseases?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, again, if I had had that thematic connection in my mind very consciously, I would have had a lot of difficulty. But I know that, as I've said, one of the things that was so frustrating to me at the time that I was writing what turned out to be the middle section of this book was this enormously consequential manipulation of our shared narratives globally, but I was thinking specifically about in this country, in the United States, we have stories that are shared. And when I was growing up in this country, many of those stories were positive, right? Now I understand that many of them were concealing enormous wrongdoing that should have been addressed more openly. My father was an immigrant to this country. My maternal grandparents were immigrants to this country. And when I was growing up, I was very proud of this. And I felt affirmed in that by this society and culture. And to see immigration, particularly by this certain former president, turned into, a monster story, like a story of disease, contagion, the country, being tainted. It was horrifying and still is horrifying to me. And so I felt that manipulation of just our understanding as a people of who we are and what we value was so dangerous. And, this book is set in a high school. It's obviously like a little microcosm, but those macrocosm versions of that manipulation and that lying, to be really blunt about it, was clearly, it was on my mind, and it still is.
You teach creative writing at Yale University. You therefore meet what is possibly the next generation of writers. What would they are like, and what do they want their writing to be like?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an honor, really, to teach there. I have these extraordinary students. They are the next generation of writers and of everything else too. I mean, I'm very conscious when I'm teaching of the fact that, I'm very well teaching, the next president, the next secretary of state, the next secretary of the treasury, the next Mark Zuckerberg, hopefully a less harmful version, if I may say. But I can only really, as you said, I can only really be a writing teacher. And their writing is really, they're very concerned as writers with how to respond to this world that they're living in. How to be reflective of this moment and, not have their heads in the sand, not, be up in the metaphorical ivory tower and unaware of, the wide range of difficulties we're facing. They're very, very concerned about social justice. They're very concerned about racial justice, and they're very concerned not to do harm in their writing. And this is amazing to me. I'm so humbled by them. And it kind of goes back to what we said before about the concerns of adulthood being far away. Not for them, they're when I was a young writer their age, all I thought about was myself, to be totally blunt. I just thought about myself and I wanted to be a writer. And they're having to have the whole weight of the world on their work. And it's hard.
Now, talking about creative writing and talking and also rephrasing somehow a previous question of mine, how much is exercise, how much is technique, and how much is sheer gift, sheer talent?
I think a lot of it is exercise. And I don't even know if I would say technique as much as I actually use an exercise metaphor when I teach my students. I say to them, if you want to be healthy, remember, you just have to work out regularly, like you have to exercise regularly. And it's really about making space for that and doing it on a regular basis, right? You can't just like exercise when you feel like it only. And I always say to them, it's very true. Writing is the same way. You have to write as often as possible, not expecting to always produce something, but recognizing that the writing is its own practice, like if you're going to jog, you're probably going to want to jog like once every 2 or 3 days to, stay in shape. And if you want to write, you're going to have to write consistently, and your writing improves the more consistently you engage with it, even if what you're writing is never seen. Yeah, having some natural aptitude for it is definitely helpful, but it doesn't really get you very far if you don't just engage with the process in this kind of regular workman-like way where you're thinking like, I need to write for several hours today, and it might be garbage, but that's not the point.
Now, going back to trust, hard to build, easy to lose, or vice versa.
Hard to build, easy to lose. I mean, oh my God, just again, I hate to keep bringing it back to the political situation in the United States, but just look at us, American democracy, hard to build, easy to lose. People don't trust the government. They don't trust their leaders. They don't trust their doctors. They don't trust their scientists. Like this is a bad situation. And it all just dissolved so quickly, this trust that I think, again, when I was a child, I really took for granted. I thought like, oh, there are these things that we can trust. We can trust, the person reading the news on TV. We can trust the person that gives us our, yearly checkup at the doctor's office. We can trust the man, because when I was a child, it was always a man, and it still is, sitting in the White House. I imbibed an idea of trust from my culture, which is gone. I don't think people in this country have really ever understood that as well as they're understanding it right now, that we're actually like, at a midpoint on a continuum that could go steeply farther downhill from here really, really fast.
Last question. What or who reinforced your trust in yourself as a writer when needed?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. And I think the answer is, this is not to in any way cast doubt on my writing teachers, because I've had many amazing writing teachers, but I really think it's my writing peers, like good friends now for decades who we value the same things. We love to write, we love to tell stories, and we have given each other support. I mean, I have a handful of close friends who I've known since I was a younger writer who have really been there for me, and I've tried to be there for them, reading their work, talking about our difficulties, as we got older, talking about our families, other issues, and just having the trust in those friends to tell me the truth and to be there, when I needed help.
Thank you so much. It's been a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your great questions. And I enjoyed it really a ton.
Doamnelor și domnilor, Vizual la final. Sunt Marius Constantinescu, mă găsiți și pe Facebook și Instagram, iar aici, la Cărturești Verona, pe TVR3 și TVRplus.ro, ne revedem sâmbăta viitoare. Până atunci, priviți în jur!